Welcome back to Giant Monster Games. My name is Adrian, and after a 6-week hiatus, I have returned to bring you Infect. As a punishment for taking such a long time off, I'm going to bring you this deck because you guys voted on it. Before we actually break the deck down, though, I'd like to throw a huge shout out to all of the Patreon supporters that supported during the hiatus while I was moving to a new house. You guys are fantastic. Especially Dampening Sphere. You are the sideboard card that we have needed and wanted for such a long time. Thank you for backing the channel. Moving on though, what is Infect? Well, Infect is a mechanic that allows you to kill your opponent by doing 10 damage to them rather than 20. So a bunch of creatures have Infect, such as Blighted Agent, Plague Stinger, and Ichorclaw Myr. So we're running all three of these cards because they have Infect and because they are high value. So what exactly is Infect? Seeing so I haven't actually explained it, I just kind of give you a blurb. It is whenever this creature deals damage to another creature, it deals it in -1/-1 counters, and it also deals damage to players in the form of poison counters. So if one of these guys swings in for 1 damage, it doesn't actually do 1 point of damage, it deals 1 point of Infect damage to your opponent. When your opponent has 10 or more points of Infect, they lose the game. This is the objective of the deck, is to get our guys to swing in and deal 10 points of Infect damage. Now, what are we actually running here? Like, why are we running these guys? Well, Blighted Agent is unblockable, so we want to run it because it's unblockable. Plague Stinger has flying, which means it has evasion, which means it's also harder to block. And our Ichorclaw Myr is, well, whenever it is blocked, it gets +2/+2. So for 2 mana, we get a 1/1 Infector, which is, yeah, whatever. But if it gets blocked, it becomes a 3/3, which makes it so it doesn't die as easily most of the time. It sometimes does, still does. But this is the reason why we're running all these guys. There are other Infect creatures we are running in this deck. We have Flensermite, Phyrexian Crusader, and Hand of the Praetors. So, if you haven't noticed at this point, we're playing a blue-black Infect deck, not a green anything else Infect deck, because I want to be different. If I'm going to make an Infect deck, we're going to make a Budget Infect deck, we're going to make something a little bit off the wall. So, what do these guys actually do, going back to what we're actually talking about? Flensermite has lifelink, so when it deals its damage, or in this case, puts 1/1 counters on stuff, or poison counters, we get to gain some life back, which is always nice. Phyrexian Crusader is probably one of the best cards in this deck, and I would actually want to run 4 of them, but he's kind of expensive, so we're only running 2. He has First Strike, Protection from Red, and Protection from White, which means he can't be bolted and he can't be Path to Exiled, which is really fun, and the reason why we want to run it. Also, he has First Strike, which is fantastic. So if he's going to deal damage to his creatures, he'll deal the 2 damage in the form of -1/-1 counters, making the creature shrink before it actually deals damage to us, which is really, really good. Again, want to run 4 of them, don't actually have the budget for it, but if you're upgrading this deck, put 4 of this guy in the deck. That's all there is to it. Come on, just do that. And then Hand of the Praetors. Praetors? Yeah, look, sounds like Praetors. It makes all other creatures with Infect get +1/+1, so it's an Infect Lord, which I didn't think existed until I started building this deck. So Infect Lord, we're running one of them because he is actually 4 mana. He's way outside of our curve because we're really light on land. So if we get him out, super cool. And he also has another ability, is whenever you cast a creature spell with Infect, target player gains a poison counter. So we could use this to get through stuff like Ensnaring Bridge or some kind of more hard locks where we can't actually swing in. That is all of the creatures we have in the deck, but we do have some other stuff because, again, as I said, I want to be different. So let's talk about our artifact section. That's right, we have an artifact section. It is going to be Livewire Lash. So this card, which we're running 3 of, by the way, because we really want to see it. We don't want to see 2 of them. We do want to see 1 of them in a game. It gives target creature +2/+0 when it is equipped, and the equipped creature has, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell, that creature deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So the creature is dealing damage to a creature or player, which means if it deals damage to a player, it deals 2 points of Infect damage because we are Infect creatures. All of our stuff is Infect creatures. So it's a way of us targeting our creature, making it bigger, and then dealing 2 points of Infect damage to our opponent passively without having to actually swing in or anything like this. Also, if our opponent targets this creature with a spell, so Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt, or whatever, they're going to take 2 points of Infect damage as well. So it's our way of kind of getting through the other decks that are probably more bigger and baddier than us. So that's how we're going to do it, and it works pretty well when it works. So that is the kind of the plan. Moving to the next section, though, we have pump spells, because an Infect deck would not be complete without a whole bunch of ways of pumping these creatures and making them do a ton of damage in Infect. Pump spells, we have Distortion Strike, Mutagenic Growth, and Vampire's Bite. Distortion Strike you may have seen because it is being played in some decks, budget, cheap, janky decks, not real decks, by the way. Why would I ever talk about real decks? It is being played in a bunch of them because target creature gets +1/+0 and cannot be blocked until end of turn. So it basically gets unblockable, but it doesn't actually stay unblockable on the thing. It's basically the same thing. It also has a rebound, which makes it really cool for us, because if you cast this card from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may recast this card without paying its mana cost. So for 1 mana, we basically get to give a creature +1/+0 and unblockable, and then we get to do it for free the turn after, which is really, really awesome. Really awesome for an Infect deck, because we don't really want to be blocked ever. We kind of just want to get to our opponent's face and deal exactly 10 points of poison damage. Mutagenic Growth, you probably have seen, because Mutagenic Growth actually sees play, like real play, like in real Magic land. So Mutagenic Growth is 1 Phyrexian mana, in this case. It's green Phyrexian mana, but we don't have green, so we're going to pay 2 life to give our creature +2/+2 until end of turn. Do this at instant speed, super fantastic. It's a good way of pumping our creatures and not having to worry about having mana to do it, because we can just pay life, because, you know, life's a resource, right? Let's use it. And then Vampire's Bite, I went around looking for some cheap black pump spells, and I found stuff. I mean, I was not disappointed. Vampire's Bite gives a creature +3/+0 until end of turn. If Vampire's Bite was kicked, which is quite unlikely for us, that creature also gets lifelink. Generally, we're just playing 1 mana, giving a creature +3/+0. So those are our pump spells, but we also have protection spells, which some of them also do pumping in some cases. So we have Apostle's Blessing and Rush of Vitality. Apostle's Blessing you may have also seen, because it does see real-world Magic land play as well, not just janky cool decks like mine. So it is target artifact or creature you control gets protection from artifacts or from the color of your choice until end of turn. So we can use this to protect our creatures from whatever spells we want. Obviously, from creatures with Devoid or Karn/Ugin, not such a protection thing, but Wormcoil Engine and almost any other creature out there, we can basically not be blocked by it, or make it so we don't just die from a spell, such as a Path to Exile. And then the other card I was mentioning, Rush of Vitality, is another pump spell / protection spell. So target creature gets +1/+0 and gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. So we can use this at a moment's notice to make it so our creature doesn't die, or we can also use it as a pump spell if we really need to down the road. And then the last spell we have in the entire deck is we have Victim of Night. It is just a removal. If we need to remove stuff off the table, we have a couple removal spells in the main deck. We have a bunch of stuff in the sideboard as well, but main deck removal, always nice. We gotta have that as well. Moving over to our land package now, we have Drowned Catacomb as our land that produces both blue and black mana. Right now, when I'm making this video, it's like $4.70. I guarantee you, as soon as this rotates out of standard, it's going to drop down to like $2. So after this video comes out, a ways down the road, if you're watching this in the future, welcome from the future, and this will be playable, much more budget-like. And then basic lands, we have islands and swamps. Mostly swamps, because we are mostly a black deck, so that's what we want to do, mostly black cards. And that is the entire main deck, but before we break down this sideboard and the upgrade section, if you want to pick this deck up in paper, go over to Flipside Gaming and use promo code GIANTMONSTERGAMES to get 10% off your online purchase. Or, if you want to pick this deck up for MTGO, there is a link to Card Hoarder in the description below this video. Both of these things help out the channel directly by you playing Magic. So, if you want to do that, that would be amazing. Okay, jumping over to the sideboard. Break it down for you, we have Vapor Snag and Victim of Night, both cards that are completely designed to remove stuff that is currently on the table from the table. So Vapor Snag, bouncing it to your opponent's hand. They also take a damage, which really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. It doesn't do infect damage, so it does not matter to us actually at all. Victim of Night, on the other hand, is a way of us killing creatures once they're in play, because that's what we do in Magic. We kill creatures. It's part of the game. And then moving into preventative measure counter stuff, we have Dispel and Duress. Duress is removing stuff out of our opponent's hand that is going to be painful. Usually removal spells come out of our opponent's hand. And then Dispel, the reason why we're running Dispel rather than Mana Leak or some other kind of counter magic is because the spells that give us the most problem are direct removal spells. So we're talking Path to Exile, we're talking Fatal Push, we're talking Bolt. These are the cards that actually give us the most problem, so we're going to put in Dispel if our opponent is running a bunch of those cards to prevent our opponent from actually killing our stuff straight out. Usually big, crazy spells we're not as concerned about because we're going to rush in. We're going to do 10 points of damage, poison damage, infect damage to be exact. And so, yeah, instant speed spells are what gives us problem. That's my... It's the lesson of the day. Instant speed spells kill infect. So normally, by the way, while I'm explaining here, because I'm going to hang out, usually in a green infect deck, you would run something like Blossoming Defense, which gives your creature hexproof, which means they can't be targeted. We're not playing green, so we need another way of doing that. Dispel is filling that role. And then more targeted hate for our sideboard. We have Ceremonious Rejection because Karn and Ugin are very hard for us to play through. Tron is what I'm saying, is very hard for us to play through, so Ceremonious Rejection comes in against that. We also have Pithy Needle, which we can can also use for Karn Ugin, or in a lot of cases, Liliana, because Liliana is a pain in our ass, specifically Liliana Veil, so yeah. And then the last one is Tormod's Crypt, because sometimes Dredge can outrace us, so having the slightest edge against Edge is probably a good idea. And that is the entire deck, but even a janky, awesome deck like this needs an upgrade section, so let's talk about some upgrades. The first one I mentioned already is Phyrexian Crusader, and I also want to talk about Sphinx, the Blight Dragon. I'm not even going to try this one anymore. This one's horrible. So, both of these cards are excellent upgrades. Obviously, we're running 2 Phyrexian Crusaders already, so running 4 of them is probably going to be your best bet. Even though they are 3 on the mana curve, they are a better card because they don't die as easily to the cards that actually are going to kill them, or kill all of our stuff for that matter. So, he is definitely worth running 4 of, not 2 of. And then the Blight Dragon is just a really good late-game bomb card. Obviously, he's probably going to be played as a 1 of, maybe 2 of, but probably a 1 of in your deck, but having him is really freaking powerful. So not only is he a 4/4 flying infect creature, but he also can be regenerated, which means if your opponent does anything but exile him, then he's going to come back again and again and again. And then he also gains haste until end of turn, so you can actually, if you have, for some reason, you have 6 mana in play and you draw this guy, you can play him and swing in the same turn, which highly unlikely, I think is the word I'm looking for here. So both these cards are really good. And then we do have a couple other cards. We have a Dismember and Inkmoth Nexus. Dismember is a better removal spell in a lot of ways because it is going to give creature -5/-5, which is better at killing most things in Magic than it is just straight up like destroy a target creature. Mostly because if that creature has indestructible, -5/-5 still kills it, which is fantastic. And then Inkmoth Nexus, as I was mentioning, is probably the best upgrade for the deck. If you were going to do anything that's going to upgrade the deck, Inkmoth Nexus is probably the best thing you can do, because you pay 1 mana, Inkmoth Nexus turns into a 1/1 Blinkmoth artifact creature with flying and infect. It is still a land. So, fantastic. You basically, it is once you get to the mid game, you have a creature constantly that is also a land that you can be swinging in and doing infect damage to your opponent's face. So, a really good option, because you don't ever want to get flooded out with this deck. I mean, we're running 20 lands, so you shouldn't get flooded, but sometimes you might, so having some way of actually turning those lands into creatures is fantastic. Anyways, that is the entire deck. My name's Adrian. Don't forget to subscribe to Giant Monster Games if you want to see more videos just like this, and until next time, don't forget to game like a giant monster.